a lot of people would probably say, she wouldn't be the asshole. She would just be getting her money's worth. Personally speaking, I think she would be the asshole. I know it's gonna sound a little bit weird and maybe I'm trying to sound controversial, but let me explain it in full. She would be the asshole, but we would perfectly understand it, and we would even ride for her to be the asshole in this case. Let me explain.
The royal penis is clean, Your Highness.
Welcome to the Breakdown Podcast, where I talk about love, sex, and relationships from a guy's perspective, as well as a bunch of other guy shit. The man on the mic is a man who might find it hard to breathe if you've got that asthma. He is also a man who may include skipping leg day to his cardio routine. It is none other than your tall, dark, and mildly handsome man, Sir Denver B, and I am here to talk about perception. The fact that some people just see some things wrongly and other people just don't see shit. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I don't expect this episode to be that long, considering that it's not like I'm discussing anything relationship or sex related, but I at least do expect it to be particularly interesting because I have a bit of a dilemma on one end, and I also have a situation where I get to talk about men. Not necessarily in a way that's supposed to make women feel a lot better, but in a sense that they may actually feel like, you know what, some of the men out here actually do act like us. Now, whether that's a good thing, that's a bad thing, I think that's entirely up to you, the listener. But all in all, I do hope that you like what it is that you're listening to, and that you do listen all the way till the end. And should you like it, should you not like it, should you have a different form of feedback, or should you want to suggest a potential topic and or guest to be interviewed in the podcast, then you can always hit me up through the DMs. My DMs are always open. The social media links are usually in the description below or above, or wherever it is the descriptions are on whichever app you're using. And should you feel a little lazy that you don't want to go and look in the description to find the links to the social media, you can obviously just listen all the way till the end, because I usually mention them right at the end of the episode. But all in all, like I said earlier, thank you so much for listening, and I do hope that you listen all the way till the end. Now, with that said, I should definitely get this show on the road, and I want to start things off by questioning the idea of assholes. Not necessarily in like a bad way, but where some instances almost basically force you to be one. Now, I stumbled across a particularly interesting post from the Ranting podcast where they had a situation that I'm guessing was likely pulled from Reddit. And to be more specific, the subreddit AITA or ITA, which is usually short for Am I the Asshole, whereby people usually go and describe a scenario where they either wanted to do something or have done something, and they ask if they were the asshole in that particular case. Now, in this particular case, it was something that involved a wedding and a couple of friends and a potential lawsuit. Now, this one might be interesting for me because I may actually go against what a lot of people might say in this particular case, but let me let the clip play, then, as you formulate your thoughts, I can give my thoughts on the entire thing. So, without further ado...
If I am telling you that I'm going to pay for your ticket for my destination wedding, it's because I really want you to be there. And you have the audacity to come on the trip and then not show up because you didn't get a honeymoon. That's not my fucking problem.
Would I be the asshole for suing my friend when she didn't come to my wedding?
Oh.
Whoa. I, 25 female, recently got married to my 25 male husband in Bali, Indonesia in January. It was a destination wedding, but my parents and his parents paid for their own plane ticket and hotel, but we paid for our friends' plane tickets and hotel stays. Each plane ticket was about 2,000 USD, and hotel was maybe about 150 to 300 for a week. My friend, Gemma, brought along her newlywed husband, John, but paid for his plane ticket. The problem is that Gemma and John did not show up to my wedding. Gemma took the free plane ticket to Bali and the hotel room, and when I asked her why she didn't show up, she said that since they couldn't afford their own honeymoon, that this was a perfect opportunity, and now she changed it to Jim. Jim decided that he didn't feel like going. I was really hurt by this since Gemma and I have been friends for over 10 years. Would I be the asshole if I took her to small claims court for the money I spent on the plane ticket and hotel? The update is just as long, maybe even longer than the story.
Wow.
Okay. Does that make her the asshole? Given the current circumstances, or should I say the circumstances that were given there, I don't know. Would she be looked at as the asshole for taking her own friend to small claims court for not attending her wedding? A lot of people would probably say, she wouldn't be the asshole. She would just be getting her money's worth. Personally speaking, I think she would be the asshole. I know it's gonna sound a little bit weird, and maybe I'm trying to sound controversial, but let me explain it in full. She would be the asshole, but we would perfectly understand it, and we would even ride for her to be the asshole in this case. Let me explain. If she wasn't going to be an asshole about it, and it was just, I'm so done with this friend, the usual thing is you cut off such a friend because she clearly did not give a damn about your wedding. She was just looking out for herself, and she turned a wedding invitation into an opportunity to enjoy herself, and she took advantage of you, and that was bad, and you should cut them off, drop them, block them, blah, blah, blah. That is what someone who is not the asshole is supposed to have done. You choosing to take that friend to small claims court, considering that there is effort on a legal level to go to that extent just to get your money back because you feel swindled, does definitely seem like an asshole move. The only difference is we support your assholery, or at least I do. I'm gonna speak for me. I support you being an asshole in this particular case, because when I look at it, one of the worst things that can happen is when you try to treat your people well just for them to start taking advantage of you. And oftentimes, you will always give them quite a bit of rope, and they will always try to tug on it and take more and more and more and more. But eventually there has to be a point where either you choose to cut them off as a friend because they will continue to take advantage of you, or they get what's coming for them either through you or through someone else, or both can happen. They get what's coming to them and you cut them off as a friend. Because if neither one of those two things happen, then you will continue being taken advantage of again and again and again and again. And in this particular case, this babe clearly did see that she was taken advantage of, because she basically went ahead and paid for these guys' plane tickets, and these guys decided to treat it like a 2-for-1 special, whereby it's I'll pay for his plane ticket and mine comes free. Then they go to Bali, they go ahead and enjoy themselves, and they don't appear for the wedding. Because you look at it, and here's the thing, if these guys were there for, call it even 6-7 days, or a week or a couple of weeks, even call it 4 or 5 days, when you kind of think about it, these people would have still gone for the wedding and still enjoyed the honeymoon at the same time. Because it's not like the wedding is a 3-day thing, because these aren't Indians. So if the friend and her husband would have just decided, let's go to Bali, we can enjoy our honeymoon there and go for the wedding as well, they'd have still managed to pull it off, and they'd have had a happy friend and a honeymoon at the same exact time. I don't see why the hell they had to choose one versus the other, because on one end you look at it and it was like a wedding with a side of honeymoon, or a honeymoon with a side of a friend's wedding. And when you look at it, you can do both of those, because for most Western weddings it's usually a couple of hours, maybe half a day, maybe at most a full day of call it even 12 hours. But beyond that, you can basically enjoy whatever other days are there. So you basically enjoy yourself, and maybe you might have to pay a little bit more for the hotel, and maybe just ask to reschedule the returning flight and everything, and you'll still have a pretty dope honeymoon. But then you decide to be a sleazy friend like that, and it's oh yeah, we had to have our honeymoon because we never had it and we didn't have enough cash. Honestly, I can totally understand her being taken to small claims court and frankly milk the money and even add extra for emotional damages or some shit, or whatever it is that Americans like to do. But to be quite honest, this isn't just an example of someone being a shit friend. This is a very clear-cut example of being a shit friend and being very unintelligent while being a shit friend. And considering that the main topic does involve me discussing shit friends, or at least friends that can be very shitty towards you, I feel like this is the less intelligent version, and I'm about to get to the ones that do carry a little bit of intelligence. but just a little bit. So either way, I'm going to leave it at that and move it on to our main topic of this episode. Now, oftentimes as guys, if there's one thing that we usually like to pride ourselves on, it's the fact that whenever we have issues as guys, it's either we're going to talk about it, fight about it, or people just split and it kind of just goes there. But for the most part, it's a lot of stuff that we can manage to just sort out pretty quickly, and we usually say that makes us a lot more superior, as opposed to women that can carry grudges for years, will constantly try to bring each other down, yada yada yada. And we've believed this is men for a particularly long time, to the level where even women nowadays look at it and they're like, is it that male friendships are better, or what is it that you guys do that makes your friendships better? Because it's like female friendships are always about stabbing each other in the back, or at least that's what some people tend to believe at certain times. But that's kind of besides the point. So when I saw a post on Reddit where some woman was busy asking about whether men hate on other men the same way women do, I did find myself particularly intrigued, and after looking through the post itself and some of the comments, I'm starting to wonder if male friendships or just men's friendships are actually better than women's friendships, and minus the drama and everything. Like, there might be a lot more similarities than I thought initially, because I've actually had to think about this. But all in all, the post on Reddit was actually titled, "Do guys also get hate from fellow guys, or is it just a girl thing?" And I do want to read the post because the way I kind of had to think through this a little bit more as a guy kind of did force me to kind of reconsider how good or how much better our friendships may be or aren't as far as men go. So I am just going to read the post and get into the comments and my thoughts on it. So the post says, and I quote, "I want to ask something honestly. Do guys also get hate from fellow guys the way girls do from other girls? I found out that someone I considered close to me created a fake WhatsApp number just to insult me, call me names, and even talk badly about me in groups. Meanwhile, with her real number, she was the sweetest person, craving shawarma, asking me to buy for her, acting soft and loving. And I was there for her, doing everything. It took me months to find out it was her behind the fake number. That experience really opened my eyes. It made me more careful about who I allow into my life. Sometimes the hate isn't from strangers, it's from the people closest to you. Do guys also deal with this kind of hidden competition and jealousy from their own friends?" End quote. Now, I have a bunch of thoughts on this, mainly around the fact that I do think that male friendships are very similar in this whole respect of like jealousy and hating on each other. But in some ways, while we are quite similar, like there's also ways in which we're very, very different, and men's friendships, or should I say male friendships, tend to be distinctively different from a lot of the female ones. But before I can get into why I feel this way, let me just get into some of the comments that I saw which were particularly interesting. So I'm gonna go in with the first one, which said, and I quote, "What I know is men are go-getters. If you are ahead of me in relationships, money, looks, and even connections, I might hate secretly. But if it's a man of brains, he will work towards being better than that guy. Men crave to be better, hence the little hate. The hate dims away when the other guy decides to collaborate and help in improving one another, aka growth." End quote. And I disagree with this. Not because this isn't something that happens, but because this is something that happens in, I want to say, a more nuanced way as opposed to other situations. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it's so nuanced that only a few people ever do this or experience it, but guys hate as well. Like, guys will hate on other guys, and guys will treat other guys shittily because they feel some type of way and will compete against other guys. It's just that oftentimes if we're competing against one another, we'll be a little bit more healthy in how we compete. And even though, some person might feel some type of way against the other person, it might not be something that is as common for guys, or at least is not usually something that shows itself or happens as commonly for a lot of guys. But, then again, I could be wrong about this one, but for the most part, I do highly disagree with this. Then I'll move on to the next comment, which says, and I quote, "I think guys' hate could be worse than girls." End quote. Now, do I think that it could be worse than girls? I personally don't think so, just because the way us men compete is, I could argue, a little bit healthier, granted, it's not like it's always all healthy as far as competition is concerned, but I just feel like there's less stabby behavior from guys as opposed to women. Not that it's not there, but I just don't think it happens as often. Then the next comment says, and I quote, "A friend of mine was jealous of me because of the type of women I pull. One day, a girl rejected me but changed her mind and came back. I turned her down and she got mad. To get back at me, she kissed that guy friend in front of me to make me jealous. This guy friend took that opportunity to talk trash about me to my face. He was drunk and the girl kissing him gave him the courage. The girl came back to me after the incident trying to explain things, but it couldn't cut it. I've had another guy friend drag my name and business as well. He was jealous that despite gatekeeping opportunities from me, I figured out my shit and made more money than him. The worst part about it is I didn't gatekeep what I was doing. I helped him, but he could not sustain it. Men are equally as bad and jealous, if not worse." End quote. Okay, I'll be very honest and say that I agree with this about 98% of the way. The part where he says, if not worse, I think that's the part that I mostly disagree with, because everything that is described is very real and is very true and happens to quite a number of guys. It's just that we look at it as something different as opposed to hating and being jealous. Okay, the jealousy part I feel is usually there, but I guess we just don't talk about jealousy per se. Just regularly as guys, I don't think we usually just call jealousy, and it's like, why is this guy trying to get my shit? Why is this guy doing blah blah blah? But anyways, that aside, on to the last comment before I can get into my thoughts on it, which says, and I quote, "Let me say this, guys hate in the open while women hate discreetly. Guys don't hide the fact that they hate another guy." End quote. And I will say that this is both true and false, in that guys can hate on another guy and it may not be as discreet, but there might be some discretion depending on what it is that the guy tries to do. Also, like I tried to mention earlier, when it comes down to the jealousy amongst men, it may not be visibly out there, but you may see it directly, but it's not like it's always shown like openly and out there. Although if a guy doesn't like you, then you find that oftentimes it's not like the guy will try to pretend. You'll just notice after a while that this guy just isn't really about you like that. And this is usually from guy to guy. But when it comes to jealousy and hating you discreetly, they can do roughly about the same shit. Not necessarily like exactly the same things as women, but a lot of the things that women will similarly do to other women that they don't like, you may find some men doing the same thing. Now, the biggest difference is that women will do it and they'll recognize that that's just the nature of another babe. But for guys, we like to point out how emasculated that act is, or at least how not so masculine that act is. And we'll always talk about how, we're men. Why is this person behaving like a babe? Mbona kona umama? Shit like that. But anyways, with that said, my thoughts on the entire thing. First of all, I do think that men will quote unquote hate on other men and have jealousy against other men, just like the women, and hell, we use basically similar tactics. Like I just mentioned a second ago. Like the whole like talking shit about someone behind their back, that one even men do. The whole bit about sabotaging each other because you don't want the other person to get ahead, guys do that too. Hell, I'd argue that this is probably like the main thing that a lot of guys that may be hating or jealous of you will normally try to do. The whole stabbing each other in the back, guys do that too. Probably not as oftenly and maybe with a lot less brutality as opposed to women, but guys do that too. Hell, I've even seen instances where guys basically try to bang another dude's babe just so that he can show that he's superior. And sometimes that shit is just cringy as fuck, but other times you just look at it and you're like, why would you as a man do that? Which is why, like I said earlier, we do like to point out how not so masculine it looks, because it just seems like something that we'd expect a lot of babes to do. Not that I have anything against women, or not that I'm saying that every woman will do it, but it is something that you'll probably commonly see with a lot of babes. But while I can mention that a lot of that does make the hating, the jealousy seem particularly similar for men and women, I can say that there are particular differences. Like, first of all, a lot of the jealousy, reaction, and hating that a lot of men will do against a lot of other men, like it was mentioned earlier, will probably be a little bit more upfront. It's not as backstabby as a lot of women will kind of do to each other, and a lot of times it can be in major ways. Like, guys can basically try to sabotage someone else's business. A woman will basically sabotage your friendships. They will try to sabotage, your reputation. Like, they can use reputational attacks. Guys don't do the reputational attacks thing all that much. And, for the most part, a lot of times you find that how guys will usually quote unquote hate on other guys will mainly involve using certain specific opportunities that present themselves to either make the other guy look bad or just not progress. And I guess with that said, it did kind of force me to think about why it is that people will sort of react that way out of jealousy and like a lot of the hating that'll happen. And at some point I kind of figured out that a lot of times people will have some level of hate towards you or will hate on you and have some jealousy, not because of anything that big, but just because it's competition. Like, they feel like you're doing better than them, and they are trying to prove, sometimes to themselves, sometimes to the rest of the world, that they're doing a hell of a lot better, or they're just trying to prove that you're not as good as you think you are. So oftentimes you find that this jealousy and this hatred is usually based off of competition. Although the weird part about it is, you find that a lot of times, and more so I see this with guys, you don't even know that you're competing with someone else, and yet that person is basically trying to cut your legs off. Fine, maybe with women, they know that they're competing with each other, but a lot of times guys don't even know that they're competing with each other. Like, it's such a wild thing. You realize that someone's trying to bring you down, and you don't even know what you did. Then it just comes out over time that this guy's had beef with you simply because like they just haven't liked the fact that you might be seeming like you're doing better than they are, which is usually a very odd thing. But a lot of times this so-called hating is usually just a byproduct of competition, which is why, like I said around 2 minutes ago, a lot of times whenever guys are like engaging in this actively, they'll usually use certain specific opportunities to bring you down. And that kind of goes back to the fact that in some ways you could actually argue that men are a lot better at competition than women are. And this isn't in a way to say, men are better, women aren't. Like, no. Men just tend to handle competition a hell of a lot better than women. And even within men, I would argue that the people that handle competition better are the men that tend to be less sensitive. So the more sensitive you are, the worse off you are whenever it comes to competition. Now, of course, I could be wrong about this, and this is just a random hypothesis I came up with, but it is something that I have seen quite a bit. Because when you look at a lot of competition, a lot of it involves people getting very emotional and really putting in the work, but getting to a point where when someone yells time, and basically like when the time elapses, people can back off from whatever competition they're doing, accept that it was just a competition and move on. Basically dispose of the emotions for that time and accept that it happened, and they just kind of move on. And you do see this happen quite a bit in sports, which normally will tend to have more men than women. Save for some of the sports that will definitely have women. And you see this happen quite a bit in fields where you find that there may be more men than women. Like, for example, politics. Like, people will hate each other. Hell, some people might even try to kill each other. But the moment that you guys have mutually aligned interests, like, they throw all of the rivalries behind and they work together like they've been homies since day one. And guess what? A lot of the politicians that are out there are men. Now, I'm not saying that women would make for shit politicians, but I don't really see women working very well with each other because, like, they might agree to set aside differences, but it's like those grudges just remain for years and years, which is why I believe that women tend to suck quite a bit in competition. And the easiest way to see this is usually when you look at how people handle trying to deal with competition and being on the losing side, and also how dirty people will choose to play. Like, don't get me wrong, men can play dirty, but a lot of the dirty that men will play will usually be within certain boundaries. but you find women that are engaged in some sort of active competition with each other. And personally speaking, I've seen women go at each other with such bile and just go dirtier and dirtier with each other and just be as nasty with each other as possible. And a lot of times they will go personal. Even for the men that might feel like I'm wrong about this, look at a lot of the fights that some of y'all will have with your girlfriends or some of your female friends. The moment they realize that they're losing the argument to you, they now start attacking you on personal levels from angles that you don't even expect. And the thing is, like, they will basically bring that shit up just so that they can pull you down so that you're much lower than them. And oftentimes they'll do that to a point where you're looking at it and you're like, why did we even end up here? Like, how is it that you decided to take the argument from this direction it was going and basically try go for the jugular using some other move? Like, it usually just feels wrong, but oftentimes it is how quite a number of women will tend to argue. And when I look at it, like, yes, men do suffer from the same problem at times, especially the more sensitive they are emotionally. But is there a way that we can get around this? Like, of course, you can try and select people that may be a little bit more sensible and may want to compete with you on a more healthy level. But it's not something that you can really do for other people but yourself, because the best way that you can ever avoid getting into situations like this is to basically just compete against your former self and not with other people. Now, the unfortunate reality is it's not like that's something that everyone can do, because sometimes people just like having a big bad to compete against, and oftentimes they go for the people that are close to them, even though those people are harmless. But for you as an individual, if you just focus on competing against your former self and trying to make yourself better, then you may at least avoid putting yourself in positions like this where it's like y'all are hating on someone or jealous of someone, yet they haven't really done anything to you. So to kind of conclude all of this, what I am trying to say is men actually do hate just as much as women. Men have jealousy just as much as women. This issue of jealousy and hating on one another isn't really gender specific. It's just that women tend to do it a lot more than men do. But in a lot of times you find that the main differences are the fact that men will establish boundaries even as they compete against each other in this way, and women just play dirtier than men do. At least that's what I've seen a lot of the times. Although, with that said, I could be wrong about this, I could be right. Either way, I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open on IG. It is at the Breaktime_podcast. On Facebook, it is at the Breaktime Podcast. On X, it is at Bagaka the D. And on Bluesky, it is at the breaktimepod.bsky.social. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.
But what I believe is that if you put a pastor and a prostitute in one room, one is likely to convert the other.